Good morning, everyone. Yes, today we can discuss something about social science research. Yes, we are familiar with the term research. What is actually research? Research is searching for knowledge. As we know, it's searching for knowledge. And what is actually we are doing as a part of research? We are finding something new, innovative. We are searching for a solution. And finally, we are adding to the problem. We can have a detailed discussion of the research. And of course, you know that it's not possible to wind up or give a summary of a social science research scenario in 40, roughly 60 minutes. Still, I would like to give you a bird's eye view of what research is. Now, what is actually social science research and its wider scope? How do we conduct a research in social sciences? So we have students, I hope that we have students from social work, maybe sociology, of course, economics people will be there, education people will be there, and many other interested people must have joined for this webinar. Now, let me explain different components of the research process. So, what is social science research? So, I have formulated my own definition of social science research. It is a meaningfully designed inquiry or a structured analysis carried out for different concerns. One is to find out solution to a problem. Similarly, to arrive at a conclusion based on detailed analysis of different documents and materials or events, or to explain a phenomena in a novel perspective and of social science research. As I told you, let me conclude or let me summarize what are all the aspects covered in the social science research. Of course, there are three concerns in any type of research. One is what of research, of course, why of research, and how of research. Selection of the problem. Regarding what and why of research, we have to look into a problem or a concern that we are going to address in research. Yes, a problem. How to select a problem? Yes, of course, as postgraduate students, you must have experienced certain issues while selecting your research problem. How do we generally select a research problem? Yes, you will have answered that from the experiences. Yes, of course, as a postgraduate student or as a layman, you must have experienced a lot from your related to your subject field. If it is economics, lots of concerns we have. In social work, we have n numbers of concerns. In education also, we have day-to-day discussions on various concerns. Now, while selecting a problem, only experience is not a criteria. Of course, a felt need we can take as a problem. Similarly, related studies. Once you have a concern, for example, I am talking about the satisfaction of employees. Yes, employees are not that much satisfied in organizations. Teachers are not satisfied, techies are not satisfied. Those who are working in factories, they are not satisfied. Yes, there are many concerns they are sharing in day-to-day life. Maybe because of the less salary, because of the tight schedule they are having. Okay, now as a researcher, you found out that, okay, this is an issue, ever burning issue that job satisfaction has to be studied. Now what you have to do is, you cannot go ahead simply with the problem. What you have to do is, you are just going to search what are the already carried out studies in the field. Yes. So what I was speaking about is related studies, significance of review of related studies. As we have seen, simply from the experience, we are not supposed to take a research problem. Why? Because it is not simply explaining something. It's not a writing of an essay. It's not speaking in a public space. It's a research. We have to find something special, something new. That is the one of the best criteria of a research. That is, the researcher has to contribute something innovative and new to the field of knowledge. That is the ultimate aim of a research. So what we have to do is we have to engage in various search of research related to the specific problem. Then another concern is, how do I search? What are the possible parameters I have to take into account while searching the related studies? From where I'll search? Yes, of course, as everyone know, or otherwise you may be first time for related to the sources of research, that is primary sources as well as secondary sources. Generally, this is the two-way classification of sources of literature. Primary, in the sense, it is first-hand information. Once you go to the field, observe something, collect some interviews, have a discussion with people related to the research area, that is first-hand information. Sometimes the unpublished reports of government can also be considered as first-hand information. These are primary source of data. Nowhere you could see this as published. Such kind of data is known as primary data. At the same time, we have n number of sources that provide you secondary sources of data, published sources. Books are one of the sources of publication, research monographs, thesis, PhD, MPhil, masters, whatever it is, theses and dissertations, project reports we have. Similarly, in books category, we have different kinds of books. Authored book, edited books, monographs, compilations, translations. There are n numbers of secondary sources as printed source. Another important printed source, what it is? They are journals and magazines. We have magazines that are giving you updates regarding various concerns of the life and life surrounding features. At the same time, we have academic magazines are known as journals. From where we are getting journals? There are publications, print journals we have. At the same time, there are electronic resources in the form of journals, e-journals. You must be knowing that in colleges and universities, we have subscriptions of the journals. There are different platforms, different organizations are providing the services like Scopus we have, Web of Science we have. Many Sage, Taylor and Francis, you must be knowing all this. There are different databases like Gestor, Sage, Taylor and Francis, Blackwell and Synergy. There are lots of sources to get information through online. Most of these set concerns or these websites and agencies are paid. We have to pay a huge amount of money for getting the information, because all these are information or research results of senior professors, those who are working in the field. So there are intellectual property rights. We have to give efforts for them. So there are sources that universities and colleges purchase. We have to search anywhere there are studies in the specific concern. I have discussed an example as job satisfaction. Is there any study carried out in the recent past? Is there any study progressing? From the websites of the universities, you must be knowing the ongoing projects. So that is also an information. Why I am talking about all this? Why you are going to search all these issues, all these concerns, all these materials? I'm not making any trouble in my research. This is all right. I'm on right track. My research is specific. It's not having any duplication. Nobody else is doing this at present. I confirm that. These are the sources of information. Similarly, we have dailies, newspapers, other magazines. We have TV shows, websites, blogs. All these are secondary sources of information. Now you know that how to search related literature. So what I have
Excuse
to...
me, sir.
Yes.
Screen change ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ല കേട്ടോ, slide change.
I'm on the same slide.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Now what we have to do next? Once research is all right, when the research problem is all right, we have to look into different other parameters. Before going to the other concerns or steps of research, let me give a glimpses of various methods and types of research. This is also significant because we are before going to a concrete step-by-step research, we should identify where I am, what are the possibilities for me in terms of methods and strategies of research. First of all, different types of research. There are various concerns of research. Let me explain different types. First classification is pure applied and action research. You must be knowing that. You must have heard that. What is pure research? It is simply contributing to the theory. It is fundamental research, or it is known as basic research. These are theory building researches. Most of the time in science, you could see innovations are happening out of basic researches, fundamental researches. Second category is applied research. For example, psychologists has identified that intelligence is leading to success of student. Intelligence leads to success. It's a proven theory. Out of his basic research, he has evolved that intelligence leads to academic success. So now the researcher, as a researcher, you're not going to do another basic research. What you are doing is whether this theory, this postulate is applicable in a group of people that you are concerned about. For example, in Kerala, you are concerned about Trivandrum district, students of Trivandrum districts, whether the theory proposed by the specific psychologist is applicable to my area. That is applied research. You're applying the already established theory. That is applied research. Third category is action research. In action research, what we are doing is, we are doing small scale researches. That is not a concern of everyone. Action researches are concerns of managers, teachers, those who are practitioners in the field, and they are having certain constraints, certain issues in their life, in the sense in their professional life. They have to tackle it seriously and they have to resolve it at the earliest. In such a case, it may not be possible without a research, but it is not possible to conduct a long-term research in that because they're working in a specific field and they have to tackle it and continue the business, continue the organization, carry out the research, carry out the teaching. So what they have to do is immediate solution oriented programs are required. That is immediate solution oriented action researches they are carrying out. This may not be having specific rigid methodology. They may not be taking into account big sample on specific simple number of samples. That is, they are taking a few participants into account and accordingly they are doing research. This is applied research. This is action research. So what we have seen just now is basic research or fundamental research, applied research, and action research. Now, another categorization of research is, there are n numbers of categories. Research based on certain parameters, we can categorize the entire research into qualitative as well as quantitative. Based on the philosophy, both are different. I'm not dealing in detail both the qualitative and quantitative research. But some of the methods, let me explain. First, I am taking the qualitative method as a family, qualitative families of research. Historic research. Historic research, as the term signifies, it is research on past records, past events, explanation in a meaningful way, in a different way, with a different perspective. That is historical research. Similarly, we have grounded theories, development of a theory, that is the ultimate aim of grounded theory research. This is qualitative research. Through field observations, through interviews, the focus group discussions, we are arriving at certain conclusions, and finally a specific theory is developed. That is grounded theory. Similarly, we have ethnography, ethnography, that is observing and analyzing in depth the socio-cultural and political life of a group. For example, we have a specific tribal group. You have identified that no studies are carried out on the specific tribal group in order to identify their marriage practices. For example, in sociology, we have institutions. Marriage practices are institutions. So how the marriage is practiced in a specific tribal group. So what you have to do is you have to closely observe the community or observe the tribe. So you have to be there, you have to observe, you have to be a part of the group, and accordingly you are studying the state of affairs. That type of research is known as ethnographic research, ethnography or ethnomethodology. It is also known as people's methodology. Now another is phenomenology. Phenomenology is similar to ethnography, but one of the significant difference is that in phenomenology, we are writing in the participant's perspective, not in the perspective of the researcher, not in a theoretical perspective. We are writing everything in a participant's perspective. That is phenomenology. Similarly, we have case studies as qualitative research method, case study research. Then another category of qualitative research is discourse analysis. What is discourse analysis? Similar to ethnography, socio-cultural patterns or socio-cultural life of a group is learned, observed, and researched through scriptures, through languages, through their gestures. That is, language as a medium of research. Through language, through written text, through gestures, through patterns of communications, we are observing the social, political, and cultural life of a specific group. That is discourse analysis. And let me give a stern opinion that these are very rare in Indian research scenario. So we have to have proper research. Now come to the other part. I'm sticking on to the same slide. It is quantitative. In quantitative, there are n numbers of methodologies available, n numbers of methods available. One is explanatory research. If you're simply explaining a phenomena by observing it, such researches are known as explanatory research. Now, social science people are more concerned about descriptive and analytical methods. This is actually coming under survey design, descriptive and analytical method. We are observing data, we are collecting data, observing people, collecting data, analyzing and interpreting using either statistical techniques or through qualitative techniques. We are explaining. This type of method is known as descriptive and analytical method. We have experimental method as another quantitative method, experimental. In experimental studies, we are giving some interventions and observing the effect. Giving some intervention. Psychology and education people must have heard more about this experimental research. Of course, social work people also. What we are doing is, I'm not talking about in detail about the experimental research. What I can tell you is some of the designs of experiment. One is single group pre-test post-test design. I'm talking about experimental research. In experimental research, single group pre-test post-test design is there. What we are doing is we are selecting a group as a sample, as participants, and observing some phenomena, some constructs, psychological constructs, anything we are taking into account, we are observing. For example, emotional stability of a group. Emotional stability of a group. We are observing to what extent they are emotionally stable. Let me take the examples of, yes.
Second slide types of
Yes, I am in the same slide. Yes, I am in the same slide.
Okay.
So
qualitative versus quantitative.
Yes. I'm talking about quantitative, families of quantitative.
Okay, sir.
In experimental research, what we are in, especially the pre-test post-test design, as example I have taken the emotional stability of widows. Are they emotionally stable? To what extent they are emotionally stable? Then what we have to do is we have to give an intervention. For about 1 month, I am giving a strategy or a package or a framework to train them emotionally in one way or the other, engage them in some situations, give them some tasks. Some way or the other, I am intervening with their life and situations. Later on, for example, after 1 month or two, I am taking the emotional stability scores of the same group and comparing both the scores, pre-test and post-test scores, whether there is a significant difference or not. This type of experimental research design is pre-test, post-test design, single group. Sometimes you can compare two groups, non-equivalent two-group design we have. Control group, you have a control group, you are giving a strategy either or not giving a strategy. In experimental group, you can give a specific strategy, and after you are analyzing which strategy was effective. This is all about experimental type of research. Then we have evaluative research. Another is evaluative research. In evaluative research, we are looking into certain concerns based on predetermined parameters. Whether the lockdown was effective. Suppose the government is carrying out a study, whether it was effective in spreading diseases, in controlling the social gathering. These are some of the parameters I am taking into account while studying the effectiveness of lockdown in ensuring the safety. Okay, this type of research is known as evaluative research. Sometimes we can see program evaluation. For example, there is a program going on for adolescent girls, 𝐒𝐈𝐴 𝐶𝐈 Yojana, for ensuring the psychological state of affairs of or psychological capital of adolescent girls. In Kerala we have. So whether the program is successful after its implementation of 5 years or 10 years, based on certain criteria, indices, we are looking into the concerns. This is known as evaluative research. So what I have explained in this quantitative, qualitative researches, certain research methods. Under qualitative, we have discussed case study research, grounded theory research, phenomenology, ethnography, discourse analysis, and historical research. Now, in quantitative family, we have discussed explanatory research, experimental research, descriptive and analytical research, and evaluative research. Now, let me explain how to come to the real sense of a research, selection of a problem. We have just had a discussion on how to select a problem. Why we are searching research literature related? That is another concern for me, is how to select related literature. We have already discussed. Then this research or literature we are using to identify the research gap. If somebody else have already carried out research, then why do I research? Why do I research on this specific topic? It's a waste of time. It's duplication. So I have to pinpoint what I have to do further that has not studied by the previous researchers. They're also having similar interest of yours, which at the same time, they have done research, they have carried out, they have concluded, their result is with you. So you have to intensively review the related literature and find out. So this is sometimes research scholars, researchers, postgraduate students, they are least bothered about the research literature, which let me explain, let me give you, this is the highly significant aspect of research, because research will be valid only if you have a strong background of your related literature. Then only you can identify how do you carry out research with a specific variable or specific construct. How can you state the problem? What are the commonly used methodologies? Can you change the methodology? What are the least taken methodologies in this area of research? How do they conclude their studies? What type of statistical calculation they have used if it is a quantitative study? These are the concerns we are looking into while searching for the related literature. Accordingly, we are sharpening the problem. Okay, my research problem is all right. Nobody has taken this problem. All the possible sources I have searched out. Now I know that this is a good problem. This is one of the best problems. Now what you have to do, you have to delimit the problem and define the problem properly. What you are going to do actually with the problem. Delimiting the problem. Sometimes you may not be able to take all the parameters together. So you have to delimit what you are going to take. For example, let me give as a general, we know that there is a theory of multiple intelligences by Howard Gardner. There are many types of intelligence he has explained. As a researcher of psychology, you identify that, okay, this is one of the best area you can research on. But at the same time, this is yours is a master's project. So you may not be able to take into account all the aspects of multiple intelligence. So you can delimit your problem. Like I have taken only interpersonal intelligences, certain strategies to enhance interpersonal intelligence and whether the strategies are effective or not. This is my concern because I don't have much time to enhance all the other strategies because it's only 6 months time to finish my project. This way you have to delimit the problem. Now come to the, once you have clearly explained everything about the research, now you have to explain the need and significance. Before going to the objectives, you have to explain the need and significance of the study. What is need and significance? Why I have taken this problem? You have to clearly explain. Most of the time when we observe, we evaluate the project reports and theses, we could find out that people are least bothered about it. Business scholars are least bothered about the explanation of need and significance. This is the most important area in your research report or research process. That is, you have to explain properly why you have taken this problem. Not simply a simple explanation, you have to explain this properly following the studies, previous studies. These people have carried out this much researches in the field. They have concluded this and that. So I, as a researcher, could not come across this type of problem that I'm going to highlight. Then I selected this problem. That is the basic structure of the need and significance. Now, once you have explained your problem well, you have to sort it out with proper objectives. While writing the objectives, don't go for complications. Simply give statements, objective statement simply with single sentences. Don't go for multiple objectives together. You can raise some research questions, of course. Along with your need and significance, you can raise some research questions. But at the same time, if you're writing the objectives, it should be very crystal clear. You have to write in clear-cut sentences. There should be action verbs. Whether you are going to examine, whether you are going to evaluate, whether you are going to find out some relationship, or it is a comparison or not. Are you going to find out the predictors of a specific variable? Are you analyzing the situation? These are some of the action verbs generally we use. So once you write the objectives, one by one you clearly specify the objectives based on the variables. Make sure that it is in the order of your variables. Variables are, what are variables? We explain variables. These are concerns of your research. Whatever the concerns you are taking into account, these are known as variables. So once you write something, you have to, as objectives, you have to keep the serial. That is, what is first, which variable comes first. You have to explain it first. That you have to prioritize. Comes to the objective. Come to the hypothesis. Once the objectives are clear, then the duty of you is to write hypothesis. If you have, most of the time historical researchers are not writing hypothesis. But in most of the other cases, especially in quantitative researches, we have to write hypothesis and we have to test the hypothesis in quantitative research. In qualitative research also we are writing hypothesis. What is hypothesis? These are tentative generalization. Then sometimes there is a misconception among students while writing the hypothesis. Simply write hypothesis in a model, because we have certain models. Directional hypothesis we have, that give you direction of the relationship or comparison. For example, let me give, there is a strong relationship between mental health of students and their adjustment in the schools. There is a relationship between, there is a positive relationship between. Sometimes we write there is a positive relationship between mental health and adjustment of school students. You can also write there is a negative relationship between these two variables. Job satisfaction is associated with, for example, job satisfaction is associated with their salary. This is also a hypothesis. So you can write hypothesis either in directional form or in non-directional form. Directional form we generally follow. Directional hypotheses are generally gives you a direction of the relationship or direction of the comparison. There is a positive relationship between, this is a direction, positive relationship. There is a negative relationship, it's also a direction. Simply if you write there is a relationship between X and Y, it is non-directional hypothesis. Another hypothesis, null hypothesis, that generally we write in during testing the hypothesis. Now comes to the design of the research. We are running out of time. Anyway, let me give you a clarity about the other stages of research. Design. Design, there are different designs of research. This is also one of the significant concepts that a researcher has to take into account. Which research is suitable for you? Whether it's survey design, it's a correlational design. I'm not giving you in detail. You can read it out. Correlation, by name itself, it's clear. If it is experiment, it is experimental research design. Certain qualitative designs you have. Survey design, correlational design, experimental design, and qualitative research designs we have. Then another one more design, let me give you, that is factorial design. If you have multiple comparisons of variables in quantitative research, we use generally factorial design. Now, once you explain clearly the objectives and hypothesis, you have to specify which method you are taking. That's also already you have taken it. Still, you have to specify in your research proposal what you are going to do, why you are going to carry out the research. Next is your area of study, universe of your study. What is your universe of study? On which group you are going to study? Their properties, their number, everything you have to explain as universe. Once universe is fixed, next, especially in the quantitative study, you have to go for proper sampling techniques. That is another stage. Sampling technique, we are not going into the details of the sampling, but it is another stage, sampling. There are basically, we have two types of sample. One is random sample, random families of sample. Another is non-random families of sample. In random sampling, we have, it is scientific sample. It is one of the best, it is the best sampling. Not one of the best, it is the best sampling. Random families of sample. Let me give list out. Simple random sampling. All the participants you are taking together and pulling it out. I mean, taking some of the participants as your sample. Simple random sample. You have some classification based on certain criteria. That type of sampling in random category is known as stratified random sampling. Another is you have proportionate sampling. Based on the proportion in the population, in the universe, you are taking sample. That is proportionate sampling. You can also follow some system. That type of random sample is known as systematic random sample. Then you can have, if the geographical area or spread of the population or universe is very vast, geographical area is very vast, then you can go for a cluster sampling or multi-stage cluster sampling. We are dividing the entire universe into clusters and selecting a few clusters for your study. And finally, you have to study the entire cluster. That is cluster sampling. Now, second category, second family of sampling is non-random family. If you are not least concerned about the scientific nature of research, sometimes you are not doing a structured research, then you can go for non-random sampling. Some of the experimental research we may not be able to carry out in a large sample. So we are also going for non-random family of sampling. Non-random families we have purposive sampling, convenient sampling, quota sampling, We are not just like stratified sampling. We are not taking properly the sample, but we are dividing into groups. That is quota sample under non-random family. Then we have snowball sampling. Snowball sampling in the sense, it is the researcher is having less awareness regarding the characteristics of population, universe. So the participants are giving the information about the other participants, that we are moving from one participant to the other. Such sampling is known as snowball sampling. Accordingly, either random or non-random sampling you are taking, and finally you are going to decide your sample, size of your sample. There are different parameters of deciding your size of sample. Statistically speaking, 30 is considered, 30 is considered as large sample, but for complex statistical concerns and analysis, we have to take large sample. The bigger the sample, the accurate the information and prediction that you have. Now comes to the tools. Once the sample is decided, we are going to tools of research. There are many tools of research. Generally speaking, everyone says that questionnaire. Actually, questionnaire is one of the tools, not the only tool of research. There are many tools of research. Let me list out. One is a checklist. Checklist is to give you just presence of something or absence of something, whether it is present or not. Suppose a psychologist taking some of the observations of his participant, observing whether you have bedwetting. It's a child, it is he or she is having some issues, whether bedwetting is there or not, yes or no, whether late night sleep is there or not, whether sleep disturbances are there or not. Certain parameters he or she will have, the psychologist will have, and they will take checklist of in checking whether the concern is present in the organism or not. That is checklist. Second is a schedule. Schedule is similar to questionnaire. Questionnaire, we are familiar with the questionnaire. Questionnaire and schedule. Let me explain both together. Questionnaire is having more options. From the options, the respondents can select the best option either, or they can write their answers in a given space. That we are familiar. Questions and answers will be given, and you can write the answers. The questionnaire can be divided into two, open-ended and closed-ended. In certain questionnaire, you must have experienced that there is a space for writing 1, 2, 3. There are 3 answers. If you are not agreeing to all the 3, you can write your own answer as 4. Any other, please specify. This is one of the questionnaires. This is known as open-ended questionnaire. The respondents have their own choice to write their own answers if they have. Another is closed-ended questionnaire. That is no option for the respondents. Whatever the given options and alternatives, you have to select one among them. That is closed-ended questionnaire. Then come to the schedule. If the questionnaire is unable to answer, unable to record the entries by the respondent, then it will be generally what we do is the researcher or those who are collecting the data will do for the respondent. Respondents are giving answers. You or those who are collecting data, you are taking in the questionnaire. This is actually the schedule. The respondent is not filling the questionnaire. Both are same, but at the same time, those who are entering the data. This is questionnaire. This is schedule. Sorry. Now scales, we have scale is agree, disagree type or important, unimportant type. There are different intervals of measurement. This is known as scales. Then we have test, achievement test, intelligence, we have test. These are some of the tools. Now similarly, tools, we have certain techniques in, especially in sociology, political science, sociology, psychology, social work and education. We generally use some techniques. Not in every case, in certain researches we use. Like case study as a technique, interview as a technique, observation as a technique. I'm not going into the details of that. Once the data is received through, once you fix the questionnaire tool, whatever tool you have, you fix the data collection process, collect the data, and next step is analyzing the data. You have to analyze it properly using statistical calculation sometimes, or qualitative analysis you may have, whatever it is, you have to have a clarity. Before analyzing, you have to make your plan of analysis and you have to report it well in advance. Give a framework of your reporting well in advance. Then only you just go for analysis and reporting. And there are qualitative data analysis softwares. We have quantitative, lot of devices we have, lot of tools we have to analyze the quantitative data. You have to fix it and analyze it. Later on, at the end, we have to discuss the parameters. We have to properly analyze the data, analyze the result in terms of the previous result. You have previous result, previous reviews you have to discuss in the light of previous result. That mostly students are missing from their dissertations and projects. It is also required. And at the end, let me give you what is to be taken care of. At most care you should have. Plagiarism. It's a series of things. There is an issue of copyright. There are different licenses. If you see education or OER movement, Open Educational Resources movement is also there. There are many licenses we have, other licenses. You have to see this licenses whether it is copyleft. If it is copyrighted, you have to properly cite the author. You cannot write a sentence without properly quoting the author or the source. If it is done, you will be caught as plagiarized content you have. So plagiarism you have to take into account, and as an end, let me give you, you have to properly read a citation manual. What is citation manual? It explains everything about the writing of your paper, writing of conference paper, writing of project, dissertation, everything. There are different styles, and generally, I hope that most of my audience are now they are following APA style, American Psychological Association Manual. So this you have to read. It is a very comprehensive book, comprehensive source of data that will give you how to write properly, how to cite in a proper manner. Modern Language Association, generally language people follow Modern Language Association. There are different journal associations have their own manuals. We have Harvard manual, Chicago manual, some of the journal databases, then journal streams, they use Chicago manual. American Sociological Associations have their own manual. American Anthropological Association, AAA, there is another manual. But the most popular is American Psychological Association manual. People of education, people of social work, people of economics, management, medicine, commerce, all these people, social work, they follow generally American Psychological Association manual. So this you have to take into account before going to start your research, before you're going to write your research, before going to write your references. I recommend you should read proper citation manual. Go today itself and see what is American Psychological Association manual. What does it explain? So this is all about my presentation, and we are running out of time, and I'm leaving the session. Thank you.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So, ഒരു question വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്.
Yes, yes.
So the question is from Achutan.
Yes.
Can everyone carry research? Does it require certain personal attitude or a merely qualification?
Yes, yes. So this is I really appreciate those who have raised the question. Very wonderful it is. I was about to give this because of the time issues. I just didn't mention. This is not the business of everyone. If you're researching, you should have passion. You should have certain attributes. First of all, you should have basic rigor to do research. Similarly, you should learn properly the research methodology. Now, what we are doing in the Indian scenario is, once you qualify NET JRF, once you finish your post-graduation, okay, what is the next option? I don't have a profession. I don't have a job. So better join somewhere for research. No, I sternly speaking, that is, it is not everyone's business. That is why we have lots of issues in the research field. Why we are not producing much especially in the social science research, because we are not concerned about, we are least bothered about the quality research. So those who are having passion in research, they have to come forward. Along with, it is required, certainly it is required some of the qualifications. But at the same time, Biggest thing is that they should have passion to research. Thank you. Yes.
So one more question.
Yes.
This is from Rosina. Can
Okay.
theoretical papers be accepted as research papers?
Okay. Theoretical papers. So let me give you the conference procedures that we generally follow in Indian universities and Indian academic institutions. I'm not generalizing. Still, we have certain issues in Indian conferences. We have funds and we are carrying out conferences and we are taking anything as conference papers. I'm not blaming everyone, but actually, these conceptual papers are not research papers. Once you have a theoretical, that is the study-based review papers, you have to do some, you can do some researches based on that. You must be knowing that systematic review is one of the thrust areas that being carried out. Systematic review, that is, you are taking a specific database, for example, Scopus. I'm taking the Scopus and taking the entire data of a specific variable. For example, if I'm talking about the job satisfaction, what we have explained. So I'm searching job satisfaction. I can delimit some of the countries. Suppose job satisfaction studies carried out in Asian countries. Then I take the abstracts of all the countries, all the research papers carried out. Then I can conclude some of the significant result based on that. This is a research paper based on the things. Otherwise, we are considering as a theoretical paper. Simple, just an article. If you're writing as an article, still, if it is an article, you have to write properly following the manuals of writing, and you have to specifically include some of the research reviews. You cannot write simply as a note. Suppose, for example, what is job satisfaction? What are the parameters of job satisfaction? Concerns of job satisfaction, importance of job satisfaction. Now, as a note, you cannot write it. You can write it as a research finding of people. Then it will be a review paper.
This is from Pradeep. Can you give an example of applied research and action research?
Or not? In applied research, we have a theory. For example, if you give situation for employees, their performance will be all right. Their performance will be optimum. This is a theory. This is theory of based on the psychological motivation theory. So once the situations are all right, the performance will be optimum. So what we have to do is whether this is all right. So you are running an organization, or you are a manager of a company, you are a principal of a school or a college. So you are providing all the infrastructural facilities and resources for your subordinates. Teachers are getting proper internet connectivity, proper resources to teach, like LMS platforms they have to teach. They have all the facilities of technology inside the classroom. All the teaching learning materials are available. Their autonomy curriculum they can do at their own pace and will. Then whether after implementing this, whether their output is all right. You are giving proper resting time for the employees, whether they could produce the products more. We are experimenting in that, and the result accordingly you can find out this theory is all right. Okay, I'm also getting the same result. This is applied research. If it is action research, suppose you have an issue in your company. Generally, I use this same example. In a company, we have, suppose it's a washing machine production unit. So they have every month, it's a big company and they are producing 700 every month. It's an average of 700 per month washing machine units. So now this month, or for the last 3-4 months, you have identified that there is a decrease in the company. Now 600, 550, 480. This is the trend for the last 3 months. So of course, it's a company, you are running your company for profit. So you have an ultimate aim of increasing your profit. So you have to, you don't want to wait for a year for carrying out a big research. So you have to sort it out at the earliest. So as a manager, as a supervisor, you are carrying out a research. Why this happened? Whether there are certain issues or concerns you will have. Whether it is of social media use of the employees, you are not giving increments for the last five months. Whether it is a problem of that, it is a time of pandemic. So is this the cause of decreased production? So finally, we are coming up with result. It is not a big deal. It is in a week or two, you are going to analyze the data and coming up with a solid result. This is action research. By practitioners, it is carried out. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Another question under. This is from Anjana Sujit. For collecting secondary data, which of the resources can be used? Is there any government resources that will help researchers to collect data?
I have already explained there are primary and secondary sources of data. As the government resources, we have reports. If your study is of significant concerns, you can go to government reports related to your research, if it is available and if it's specific. Otherwise, we have databases. We have databases. Scopus is one of the wonderful database. Web of Science is another database. You know that Elsevier is with Scopus. Sage is also there. Then in universities and academic institutions, we have different sources of information. In colleges now we have NList. Many resources, colleges, that is through UGC funded. It's a UGC funded project. They are giving data, money for purchasing online resources. In universities, crores of rupees are spending every year for purchasing online resources. That is, online resources, what is the speciality is that the researchers that are going to publish in 2021, you can access it now, because in press or accepted papers can also be available in many of the databases. Then Scopus, then we have many other sources like 𝐒𝐲 we have. Thesis collection we have, universities thesis collection of India government, 𝐒𝐲, 𝐒𝐲 we have. Then we have open educational resource repositories. We have a lot of open educational resource repositories. OER Asia, OER Africa, Khan Academy, we have NPTEL, we have SWAYAM platform. Many of the resources in video format we will get from SWAYAM platform. This is basically for MOOC courses, but it is also a source of information. And NCRT, NIOS, these type of organizations of government, they are also having wonderful database. We have NROER, one of the National Repository of Open Educational Resource. NROER is another repository. For recent resources, you have to specifically go to the journals, journal consortiums. We have UGC Infonet service in every university. If your colleges, you can also visit your affiliated university. There are in university like ours, University, Kerala University. If you have a temporary membership, you can enter into university and you can search. I think it's 30 rupees or 40 rupees you can pay per day, and you can take n numbers of resources available in all the databases. So these are the resources.
Oh, sir, ഒരു question ഉണ്ട്. This is from Said Shahir. How to publish a paper in a journal and what's the normal procedure for that?
Okay, it's a simple question one way. At the same time, it's a very complex question. Once you have a paper, you are ready to publish, you have a mindset of publication, you have to identify what is a requirement of the journal. Don't go for writing a paper and publish it. Go for a journal and structure your paper accordingly. Suppose I am writing a paper in British Journal of Educational Psychology. They won't publish your paper as such. They have their own specific format. They have their author's manual, guidelines for structuring your paper, do's and don'ts, the policy of plagiarism. If it is a Scopus, there are ABCD criteria. There are different criteria, sections of journals. From your specific subject area, if it is psychology, you can search which journal is suited for me. Certain are specific journals, because if I am taking the aggressive behavior, it's one of the journals, aggressive behavior. If I am writing a paper on intelligence or some, for example, some experimental studies to enhance intelligence, and I submit the paper into aggressive behavior, the journal, immediately you will get a rejection. So what you have to do is first you identify the journal to which you are going to give a paper. You can consult your supervisor, you can consult senior teachers, or you can search website, especially the authentic website. Web of Science you can search, Scopus you can search, and identify from your subject area which are the journals. If you are an initial researcher, you are a student, don't go for top class journals because they will immediately reject you because their criteria is the background in research. If you are a non-researcher, then only they will consider your paper. They are not taking into consideration the quality of your paper at a in first hand. They see the author profile, whether you are a reputed author. Then only they'll consider for the better publication. Otherwise, you can go for minimum, that is entry level publications. See the journal. Now you identify the journal. Okay, this is suitable for me. Now read specifically the guidelines. One is the scope of the journal. What are the journals? What are the articles they generally prefer? Whether book reviews are preferred, whether conceptual papers are preferred, whether systematic review is applicable in the journal, or only research study applicable. Then you can accordingly you can select it. Now second is read 10 times at least the author's guideline and structure your paper accordingly. I also recommend you to use writer's manual properly, and there are some writer assistants we have, writer assistants like Grammarly we have, Ginger we have, because especially in India we are not the native speakers. So there will be lots of errors in writing for us. So better use the help of writing assistants like Ginger, Grammarly, like writing assistants. Also, I suggest you to use reference managers, like we have EndNote reference managers. EndNote we have, Zotero we have, Mendeley we have. So you can use this. And again, I tell you that this is not a single day business. You have to rigorously work on that. At least if you're in initial stage, at least you have to work on a paper at least 4 months if you're rigorously working on that. Thank you. I hope that I answered.